So to solve this, I'm first going to start by subtracting 9 from everything. So negative 6 minus 9 is negative 15. And 0 minus 9 is negative 9. Then I can divide everything by negative 3. And when I do that, it's going to switch my signs. So x is between 3 and 5. And we have closed circles there because it's equal to. And so in interval notation, it's going to be bracket 3, 5, bracket. Solve the absolute value equation. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 4 to both sides. So I have absolute value of x plus 8 is equal to 1. And so now I can get rid of that absolute value, and I get 2 equations. From that, I get either x plus 8 is equal to 1 or x plus 8 is equal to negative 1. And then I can add 8 or subtract 8 from both sides. So I get negative 7 and negative 9. Solve the following absolute value with inequalities. Write the solution set in interval notation and graph the solution set. So I get, if I add 2 to both sides, I get the absolute value of 4 minus x is less than 16 minus 2 is 14. So what that means is that the distance between x and 4 is less than 14. So 4 plus 14 and 4 minus 14. So if I do 4 plus 14, that's 18. 4 minus 14 is negative 10. So x is between negative 10 and 18. Okay, and so I can write that, I can write that as 4 minus x is less than 14, and then I have negative 14 here. And then I can add 4 to everything, or subtract 4 from everything. I'll get negative 18 x 10, and then I can multiply by negative. Sorry, positive x now. 10. Okay. And then I want to write it in interval notation. So negative 10, comma 18, and with parentheses on both of those. Okay, on B, I'll solve that in green over here. And so if I add 4 to both sides, I get 2. Absolute value of x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 10. I can divide both sides by 2. So I have x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 5. And what that means is that x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 5, or x plus 3 is less than or equal to negative 5. And so then I can add, or I can subtract 3 from both sides. 5 minus 3 is 2, and if I subtract 3 from that, 5 minus 3 is negative 8. So I can graph that. So again, negative 3 is in the middle of my interval, and I'm going from negative 8 here and 2 here, and I have an equal to, so these endpoints are included. So everything, oh, whoops, it's the other way around. Hang on just a second. It's the other way around. So I've got negative 3 is in the middle there. And I want everything greater than or equal to 2 and everything less than or equal to 8. So it's that way. So it's negative infinity to 8, negative 8 with a bracket, union, to infinity with a open. Okay, number 20 says find the distance between the points. So we'll use the distance formula. The distance is equal to the square root of, I want to find the change in the x. So it's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So it's going to be 2 minus negative 7 squared plus 5 minus negative 4 squared. And so what is that? That's square root of 9 squared plus 9 squared. So that's going to be 9 squared root of 2. Which is approximately 12.729. But if it says the exact distance, I think it wants it in this square root format. The midpoint of the line segment, so the midpoint, it's going to be the average of the x values and the average of the y values, y1 plus y2 over 2. And so we'll have negative 7 plus 2 over 2 and negative 4 plus 5. So this gives me negative 5 halves, and negative 4 plus 5 is 1 half. So that's the midpoint. Okay. On number 21, it says to find the x and y intercepts of that function. Let me erase a little bit. Okay. So if I plug in 0, that gives, for x, that's going to give me the y-intercept. So negative 5y equals 60. I get y is equal to 60 divided by negative 5, which is negative 12. That's my y-intercept, and to get my x-intercept, I'm going to plug in y equals 0. So I get 3x equals 60, divide by 3, x equals 20. So those are my x and y intercepts. Evaluate the function defined by that for the following. Oh, if I want to write them in point form, that's going to be 20, comma 0, and this will be 0, comma negative 12. If you want to write it in xy coordinate format. Evaluate the function defined by that for the following values. So f of negative 3, I'm just going to plug in negative 3 for x. So 3 times negative 3 squared minus 4 times negative 3 plus 2. So I got 41 for that. F of 0, so it's going to be 3 times 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 2. That's just going to be 0 plus minus 0 plus 2. So it's 2. And f of 2, 3 times 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 2. Write the domain of each function in interval notation. Okay, so for this one, it's going to be not defined when 3x minus 7 equals 0. So in other words, I can add the 7 over and divide by 3, and it's 7/3. So it's not defined at 7/3, but it's defined everywhere else. So the domain is negative infinity to 7/3, union 7/3 to infinity. Okay, this one is not going to be defined when this inside part is negative. So it's only defined for x minus 6 greater than or equal to 0. So I can add that over x greater than or equal to 6. So this is the domain for everything greater than or equal to 6. So it's going to be 6 to infinity is the domain on B. On C, we'll do that one in yellow. 3x plus 2, this is just linear. It's actually defined for all x, so negative infinity to infinity on that. I don't have anything in a denominator I need to worry about or anything under a square root. Okay, this one, So let's see if I can factor that denominator. So it looks like x minus 3x plus 5 maybe. And so on this one, the domain is we have to throw out 3 and negative 5. So we're throwing those out, but everything else is good. So just not those. So the domain on D is going to be negative infinity to negative 5, union negative 5 to positive 3, union 3 to infinity. That's everything there. Determine the slope of the line passing through those points. So my slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's going to be negative 6 minus 4 over negative 1 minus negative 9. So that gives me negative 10 over negative 1 plus 9, which is positive 8. So I can simplify that if you want to negative 5/4. Write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through those points. Okay, so what I want to do first is find my slope. So 1 minus negative 3 over 4 minus 7. So that gives me 4 over negative 3. And then I can just write my equation of my line, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so you can just pick either of your points. I'll just do the 4, 1 just because it's all positive. So y minus 1 equals 4 over negative 3 x minus 4. So then I can distribute that 4 over negative 3, and so I get y equals 4 over negative 3 x plus 16 over 3, and then plus 1. So if I simplify that a little bit further, I'll get y equals negative 4/3 x plus, let's see, 16/3 plus 3 more thirds, that's 19/3. Okay. Determine the average rate of change of that function on the following intervals. So on this interval, this is an interval of x values, right? So it's going to be change in f over change in x. So it's going to be f of 1 minus f of 0 over 1 minus 0. Okay, so what is f of 1? So if I plug 1 in here, I'll have 2 times 1 plus 2. That's going to be 4 minus, what's f of 0? If I plug in 0, I'll just get 2 over 1 minus 0 is 1. So that's just going to be 2. That's the answer to A. For B, again, it's going to be f of 3 minus f of 1 over 3 minus 1. What's f of 3? 2 times 9 plus 2. So that's 18, 19, 20. Minus f of 1 is 4 over 3 minus 1 is 2. So that gives me 20 minus 4 is 16 over 2 is 8. And on C, it's going to be f of 0 minus f of negative 2 over 0 minus negative 2. And what I get is f of 0 is 2. F of negative 2, okay, 2 times negative 2 squared is 4, times 2 is 8, plus 2 more is 10 over 2. So that's going to be negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. Write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through that point and is parallel to that line. Oh, so there are kind of two parts here. So for the first part, I want it to be parallel to the line x minus 2y equals 7. So I'm going to write that in slope-intercept form. So I can say negative 2y equals negative x plus 7, and then I can divide everything by negative 2. negative x divided by negative 2 is just going to be 1/2 x minus 7/2. Okay, so the slope is 1/2. And I want my line to be parallel, so we want it to have the same slope. So the equation of the line is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus, the point I want it to go through is this point, 5, 4. So y minus 4 equals, I want it to have the same slope as this, so 1/2 x minus 5 is the point I want it to go through. So that's the answer to the first one. The second one here, it needs to pass through that and be perpendicular to that one. Okay, so I want the slope to be the negative reciprocal of that, so I want it to be -2, and I want it to go through the point 5, 4. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus 4 equals -2 x minus 5. So that's the answer to the second one. That's perpendicular. Number 28, the data in the table represent the enrollment at college X years since 2000. So I entered all of that data into my calculator. I did stat calculate the linear regression, and I got this regression line. Y equals 369 point, what am I rounding to? Nearest tenth, 0.6 x plus 22,110.7. Okay, find the correlation coefficient. That's your R value. My calculator's not giving me my R value. Okay, so anyway, so set up your calculator so it gives you the R value. That's the answer for B. Then predict the enrollment in 2020. So that's going to be when X equals 20. So if I plug in X equals 20, I get, 369.6 times 20 plus 22110.7. So I got 29,502.7 students. Okay. The last one says solve that system of equations using substitution. So the first thing I want to do is solve that for x. So x is equal to 5 minus 3y. Then plug that in for x in the second one. And so then I can see I get 15 minus 9y minus 2y equals -18. That's -11y. And if I subtract that 15 over, -18 minus 15, it's -33. So if I divide by -11, y equals 3. And so that tells me x is equal to 5 minus 3 times 3, so x is -4. Solve this system using elimination method. So the first thing I see is that my x's, I have a 3 and a 6, so maybe I can multiply this guy by -2. So if I do that, I get -6x minus, plus, 14y equals -2. And then I have 6x plus 5y equals -17. So I can add those two, and I end up with the equation 5 plus 14 is 19, y equals 19. So that tells me y equals, -19. So y is -1. And then that tells me I can solve for x now. So I have 3x plus 7 equals 1. So I can add the 7 over. I get 8. 3x equals 8. X is equal to 8/3. So that's my solution for number 30.